Hello and welcome back to CBR MTG. Here we are with a round 5 match of the Australian National Highlander Championships. We have Thomas Stoddart on Esper control and Aidan Frisch on Grixis control. And I'm lucky enough to be joined by Aidan here in the commentary booth.
Hello, hello, hello. I am indeed looking over this really interesting match between two different takes on a controlling answers deck in Highlander, where I'm playing a lot more reactively. Tom has a lot of really proactive tools, which led to some very interesting situations in this match.
Yeah, this deck almost kind of plays as a tap-out control deck. You'll see haymakers such as Elspeth Knight Errant, as well as the 6-mana Elspeth.
Yeah, Sun's Champion, who is very, very strong. It dominates a board, holds off almost any attacking force, and it can clear out big creatures. It plays defense really well, plays offense really well. Very, very powerful card.
Yeah, definitely dominated standard. And you guys have very similar point structures as most blue-based control decks do. You've got Force of Will, Dig Through Time, Treasure Cruise, Jace, Snapcaster. Am I missing any there?
Yeah, Cruise, Jace, Snap, Dig, Force. Yeah. No, we're good. We've got 7.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
we're good.
And Stoddart is bringing Mind Twist as basically the major difference here. We have Jace, Cruise, Drain, Snapcaster, Twist, and True Name Nemesis, and the Force of Will bringing out the 7 points.
Yeah, he's elected to go for 2 1-point cards over the Dig Through Time that I've chosen.
Yeah, I really liked Mind Twist in my Grixis control decks. Just being able to, especially when you choose to play it with Drain, it's such a powerful combo. Just drain their spell, twist their hand.
Definitely,
pretty much
game winning.
Yeah, for sure. You can see Tom is a Sword of Fire and Ice in the main deck, which is pretty spicy.
Yeah, I don't believe that the Sword of Fire and Ice comes up in our games, but it's an incredible way to swing a game in your favor. It protects you from removal spells and blockers really, really easily, and the card advantage that you get from killing small creatures, dealing damage to planeswalkers, drawing a bunch of cards, takes away the game really.
It's a good way to spend your mana, shifting around creatures and stuff. You can see the kind of first play of the game here is you just cycling an Electrolyze on Tom, realizing that it's not really probably going to kill any guys, so you may as well just cycle it while you can.
Yeah, the extra velocity from an Electrolyze is one of the reasons that a blue-red based control deck can get a bit of an edge in the control mirror. Spending removal spells to do a little bit of damage and not go down on cards is really, really powerful.
Yeah, especially when it's something like Electrolyze, where unfortunately here it would have been good to mop up some of these lingering souls.
Definitely. I get a little bit punished for my over-aggressive use of this Electrolyze, but I believe that I was looking to make my land drops. But of course I have a pretty bad swing here as well.
Yeah, the Confluence trying to Ancestral, presumably. Or maybe bounce the Spirits and draw a card.
I'm not entirely sure what I was attempting to use, and we will never know, of course, because Tom is getting a rather large amount of mana.
Yeah, that's a ton. That's going to be 5 mana in his main phase. It's unclear whether he'll be able to use it that well, but if he has a Mind Twist, oh my god, man.
Yeah,
Force of Will. He
had it all.
Has it all. Yeah. No, encouraging you to, encouraging him to tap out by doing something end of turn, and then still having Force of Will backup is pretty decent. Yeah.
Of course, he has had to spend a lot of his business spells to get through this. Using his Force of Will and his mana drain means that even though he has a bunch of cards in hand, he's revealed one as a land, and hopefully, I'm thinking he can't spend that mana too efficiently.
Yeah. Seeing blue, and maybe some of the mana from mana drain here. Yeah, his own Mystic Confluence.
Yeah, he's definitely
drawing him 3 cards. Yeah, basically built an ancestral blue draw 3.
Yeah, I'd play that card.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Ideas unbound with no downside, basically. I think we'll also probably see. Oh, Jared's Verdict is good.
Yeah, I'm really quite far behind at this stage in the game. He's gotten so many different 2-for-1s for me.
Yeah.
And even though he's down a card for that Force of Will, he just keeps going back up again with all of these aggressive uses of his Confluence, his Dirage Verdict. That Lingering Souls in the graveyard is still a potential source of threats that I'm going to need to deal with eventually. It's a bad spot for me.
Yeah. It's not ideal. I can see like a Drain, a Mana Leak in your hand, like these kind of counterspells that they're good and they're going to stop him kind of like further progressing his lead, but you're already pretty far behind at this point.
Definitely. I have a lot of time before these Lingering Souls kill me, so it's not like I'm under the hammer immediately, but because of how well Tom is solidifying his lead, it's going to be very, very difficult for me to get back into the game.
Yeah, he's just kind of burying you under 2-for-1s. And you've elected to try and to stem that bleeding with a counterspell on the Lingering Souls.
Definitely. I just have to buy as much time as possible for my deck to find me a way out of this. And unfortunately, drawing a like half as many turns worth of top decks is something that I want to avoid.
Yeah. So you chose to drain the Drain here instead of draining the Snapcaster.
Yeah, I think my thought process is that I have to find a sweeper of some kind regardless, and I have a bunch more ways to interact with the Snapcaster Mage.
Sure.
Cruise is
a very good draw here.
It's a pretty good draw here.
You're also encouraging Tom to by allowing the Snapcaster Mage, you're encouraging him to tap lower so that maybe your sweeper effect will resolve.
And of course, this lucky draw of Treasure Cruise really rewards him not having his shields up.
Yeah, for sure.
I get a lot more bites at the apple to find an answer to this problem.
And the Drain mana helps a lot too.
Definitely.
Alright, you've drawn to Terminate here, which is, I guess it's going to clear up the old Goblin Piker. You have another land here in a Flooded Strand. Is that a Hymn to Turek, maybe?
It's Fiery Confluence, if I remember rightly, but it might not be, considering I didn't cast it.
Yeah. Fiery Confluence seems like one of the perfect answers you'd want here.
But regardless, Goblin Piker is not the most auspicious use of a Terminate, but it may be something that I need to have happening.
Colligan's Command.
That makes sense.
Is pretty good here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Tom looks like he has a response.
Yeah. Looks like a Torrential Gearhulk.
Yeah. Oh, that's rough. You've got that Mana Leak though, which is you'll be very happy to use that, right?
Certainly. Luckily, the amount of mana that is in play worked out very well. Drawing that extra land off the Treasure Cruise was very important. It unlocked my hand to be able to more easily deal with these.
Yeah, being able to play 2 spells in a turn, kind of thing. Yeah, there we go. Mana Leak on the Torrential Gearhulk is a big play here.
And of course, now that I can start grinding through these various threats that Tom has deployed, I have now a window to get back into the game.
Yeah, for sure. Did it worry you here that he discarded Jace?
Yeah.
Yeah, when your opponent's like, if they're like choosing to discard a card and they're like, I don't need Jace, you're like, interesting.
Jace the Mind Sculptor is the worst card in my hand.
Yeah. Being able to I think the last card there is the Elspeth Sun's Champion.
Yeah.
And
that definitely puts the game away. And for Tom is I am empty-handed and can't come back from how potent Elspeth is.
Yeah, do you no Dreadbore on the main?
No Dreadbore on the main. My best out is to draw the Fiery Confluence and find some way of clearing out those free tokens.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's
you don't have double red at the moment either.
No, I don't.
Awkward.
A little bit.
Deathright's okay. Deathright can do an okay job. You got a little bit punished from fetching that island instead of getting the tropical after drawing Deathright.
Yeah.
But
Deathright Shaman is the only card in my entire 75 that uses the tropical island.
For sure.
And like obviously the ability to exile creatures from the graveyard is very, very strong. It's a main deckable way of fighting reanimator strategies. It's gains life against aggressive foes, and it's also just a clock on its own.
Yeah.
Brilliant card, really strong.
Yeah. Yeah, 1 mana planeswalker as it's known. You see that Tom has also got an Ancestral Vision here, so even if you're able to deal with this Elspeth in 3 turns or so, he's going to reload with an extra 3 cards.
Definitely. This game really went in Tom's favour and showed how his deck matches up really well against more reactive control decks.
Yeah.
He has so many ways of pushing the question with his discard spells and his cheap card advantage engines, and huge haymakers in the late game. Yeah. Now, of course, that Tom has pushed his Elspeth out of Confluence range, there's fundamentally no way for me to get back into the game.
Yeah, you're basically you're done for pretty much.
Of course, I put on a little bit of a show of fighting the good fight.
Yeah. Well, like if you draw like a Wrath here, like you can like buy yourself a turn kind of thing, but like it's pretty much a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, but even something like a Cryptic Command can buy a turn if he emblems, and then I draw into the Wrath. It's a very small situation to draw to, but given that I'm dead in the next 2 turns, I might as well see what the top of my deck can offer.
All right, so looking at sideboarding here, what are you thinking about bringing in?
Well, I've actually got a pretty established sideboarding plan for blue control mirrors. I'm bringing in 2 copies of Red Elemental Blast and Pyroblast, Negate, and Flusterstorm, as well as both of my Jaces, Jace Architect of Thought and Jace Friend's Prodigy. And for a white control deck, the Dread Border deal with those Planeswalkers.
Yeah. Well, we definitely saw how Elspeth took over the game.
Yeah.
What's your thought process on not maining JVP? It seems to be a main deck card in a lot of lists.
Definitely, I think it's quite a useful tool, but I've replaced it recently with an Augur of Bolas, which ups the percentage against decks like Elves and Skullclamp based strategies by blocking random 1/1s and trading very favorably for Young Pyromancers, Snapcaster Mages, all those sorts of Piker card advantage tools that are played a lot in blue strategies.
Sure. And looking at the top 3 cards of your library and then putting them on the bottom is always a fun exercise.
Definitely. When you whiff on the 25 hits, it's really satisfying. But Jace Friend's Prodigy in the sideboard, typically my logic of it is in games 2 and 3, in the control mirror, in the mid-range mirror, there's going to be a lot less removal spells just in general, which means that Jace Friend's Prodigy is much more likely to be able to flip successfully.
They're just taking out those 1-for-1 spells that aren't really that effective in this matchup, for sure.
Like, that's definitely what I'm doing as well. I'm cutting my my like weaker removal spells, Terminate, Lightning Bolt, Fire Ice are all leaving because they're just not effective axes to fight in this matchup. Leaving in Fatal Push to deal with any manlands and the Diabolic Edict and Toxic Deluge to beat True Name Nemesis. I don't know that Todd has his True Nemesis in his deck at this stage, but it's something that I have to be aware of.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure you're keeping it in most matchups. True Name, there's a reason you're spending a point on it. It's a very, very powerful, very aggressive creature.
It's one of the things that is almost impossible to beat if it's backed up by a single counterspell or an extra creature to eat the Edict. It just sits there, does the best bargain Progenitus impression it can, and it runs away with the game very quickly. Yeah, for sure. Now, another interesting card in your sideboard is Blood Sun. You're a 3-color deck with fetches. What's the thought process behind Blood Sun? Blood Sun is a card that I unfortunately never got an opportunity to side in because it's there for one matchup and one matchup alone. The green-black land strategies that use Light from the Loam, Strip Mine, Wasteland, and Dark Depths as their main win conditions. It can certainly hurt me by preemptively strip mining up to 7 cards in my deck, but it, in that matchup specifically, will cut off the most dangerous tool that they have against me, which is their recursive land destruction package.
Yeah, I played Blue Black Brandons throughout this event, and I found myself in these Grixis kind of like control mirrors. I started in my copy of Niles Bomb because I just found that like uh, there's a fair amount of like snapcastery like graveyard stuff, and just being able to like take away a delve spell and like get a little bit of advantage out of that, and for just having a card that sits in play and cantrips was
Yeah.
pretty useful.
I definitely agree. It's one of the cards that is a really good option to replace low impact spells in the main deck. I felt that the cards that I was citing in were reasonably high impact, and I didn't
Yeah.
want to go too much lower on my
Yeah, for
removal
sure.
count.
Well, looking at Tom's sideboard here, I feel like he's definitely bringing in that Teferi.
Certainly,
And
certainly.
he's definitely bringing in that Sphinx's Revelation.
Those are both game-winning spells in this sort of matchup. Teferi demands a counter war to be fought on my end step, or else no counter wars will be fought ever again.
Yep. I in my first top 8 match, I played Teferi out against Paul Mitchell on Grixis Control, and yeah, just kind of did a great job. I also got to play it against Todd in the Swiss on Grixis Control, and did a similar job there. Like basically, once you play it, you're good. And like giving your guys flash is like pretty cool.
Definitely,
Like
flashing in a Tasiga or a Kess or a True Name Nemesis.
Baleful Strix is
Baleful
also
Strix
good. Yeah.
are all fantastic ways to win combat, and letting you hold up your shields during their turn without any hope of them stopping you really swings the matchup in your favor.
Oh yeah. You see Tom here discarding to hand size. Good night, Vendian Click.
He's definitely not in a great shape, having already mulliganed to 6 and then missed
Missed 2 land drops now,
land
right?
drops. Yeah. I'm starting to go aggressive with my Mistress Factory just because it's an easy way of capitalizing on this lead. I have burn spells in my deck to finish it out, and while I'm holding up this double blue, it's a really low cost for me to do so.
Yeah, for sure. And I noticed you paying life for that mental misstep, so you're able to still hold up a 2-mana counter. Oh, here we go. Hallowed Fountain here. What can Tom do now that he's drawn his mana? I think that's a Gerald's Verdict.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so discarding only 1 card, but it's a good one counterspell.
Definitely. It's a shame to lose it, especially because I have been hitting my land drops. I have less spells than Tom does, and while that's not the end of the world in this matchup, I have a huge positional lead. I am still going to now sort of start falling behind a little bit in how many spells we have access to, just because I've drawn way more lands than he has.
Yeah, well, like that's the kind of the age-old tale versus when you're dealing with something where it's like Screw versus Flood.
Exactly.
The Screw is gonna get there. They're gonna draw lands eventually, and when they do, they just have all these spells to play. But you're still managing to kind of keep up. Landing a Kess here is pretty good.
Definitely.
Unfortunately, not getting any advantage out of her is disappointing.
That is one thing that my deck really suffers from. I have significantly fewer ways to immediately plus on Kess than most other aggressive strategies. I'm not playing proactive discard spells. I have no Fort Caesars or Inquisitions in my main deck, and I'm not playing Mental Notes or Fort Scours to have those extra efficient cantrips.
Yeah, it's tough because when you play Kess, you kind of want to immediately use her and get that advantage out of her because she's essentially a planeswalker. She's essentially like a Jace French Prodigy roll down every turn. So
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty steep investment to put 4 mana into your random dude and not get some advantage straight away.
Definitely.
Of course, in many matchups, just being a free fall with flying is quite useful.
Yeah, keyword flying is as always a powerful ability. Tom digging into a ponder here.
So now that his True Name Nemesis has resolved, I've only got 2 spells in my deck that can meaningfully interact with it: a Toxic Delusion and a Diabolic Edict.
Yeah.
So I'm much more incentivized to just fight over the spells that he plays that are meaningful and race with my cast because I have this life point advantage.
Yeah.
But as it stands, I am a bit worried. If he has a way of dealing with my Kess or his advantage with this Trinity Nemesis and these Lingering Souls of just really sticky, hard to deal with cards, means that he could swing this game back with just a single removal spell.
Yeah, for sure. Kess is a powerful card, but she certainly doesn't protect herself. Unfortunately, you're not able to use Kess during other people's turns, which would be so much better.
It's true, but I understand why they didn't.
Especially when she's kind of designed for a DH that feels very, very powerful, just being able to cast a bunch of instants in your opponent's turn.
Definitely.
Now, Colligan's command here is excellent to use, especially with Kess, because you're able to make Tom discard a card, and then on your main phase, you're able to do it again, which is pretty great.
Definitely. Seeing that he's discarded the Mind Twist, I think is quite interesting because it shows a bit of an understanding that
it's about the board state.
It's about
not,
the board
not
state.
What's in hand, yeah.
Yeah, and he's already got the path to victory available to him. That being his Elspeth his Trinity Nemesis, which is why he's discarded this Elspeth. He's not worried so much about the board that we're fighting. The late haymakers. What's going to win the game is already on the board.
Yeah, for sure. And Treasure Cruise here, doing a bit of a concentrate impression, reloading your hand.
Definitely. So we've also at this stage, I've been able to take advantage of that mana drain mana from last turn to do those two really impactful swing cards without tapping all the way down.
Yeah, you basically spent 4 mana to cast both a Colligan's Command and a Draw 3, so it's pretty great. Here you see Snapcaster trying to plow Kess.
And succeeding, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I make a very significant misplay here.
Yeah, I can see that sneaky reb in your hand, yeah.
I've really deep into this decision-making process of the way that I'm going to win this game is by protecting this Kess, so I need to stop him from doing anything that would deal with my flying threat.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when he plays the Snapcaster Mage, some part of my brain is just like, that card by itself doesn't do that.
Yep.
Ignoring the context
don't worry about what's in the graveyard. You know, I understand that Snapcaster itself doesn't actually kill Kess.
Even though it was a pretty substantial misplay, it turns out to be somewhat moot, as of course Tom has this mana drain, which he would have been able to use to defend his Snapcaster Mage and still plow my Kess. So even though I played entirely wrong, it does not go as poorly as it could have.
Yep. And we see the Reb here spiking out that drain, leaving Tom hellbent, but still with a pretty aggressive clock with that True Name and that Creeping Tar Pit.
Much more significantly, ways to pull out of the life total disadvantage that he is in with that Shambling Vent.
Oh yeah, definitely, and you're kind of not able to block it because you're kind of priced into being aggressive with this Mistress Factory.
If I leave the Mistress Factory back to block, he does not need to attack with the Shambling Vent. He can just keep swinging in with that Trinity Nemesis.
Yeah. Even with the Tar Pit, if he chooses to, which Definitely. is still an efficient use of his mana. I'm not sure what the life totals are at this point, but
he is at this stage of the game on I believe 5.
It's not looking great. What about you? Can you remember what you were on?
I still have quite a few turns left. I think I'm somewhere in the range of 10 or 11.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, the Deathrite kind of negating the Shambling Vent a little bit there.
The Deathrite and the Shambling Vent are definitely having a bit of a standoff. Every time that he hits me with the Shambling Vent, I can gain that life back, but every time that he hits me with the Shambling Vent, it stops my Deathrite Shaman from getting those chip points in.
Yeah. There's like maybe one. Oh man, the Gearhole coming down here is pretty absurd.
But unfortunately, Tom has made a bit of a mistake where He's treating the Gearhulk like a Snapcaster Mage or a Kess, and
you can't actually hit that T-Rex there. But luckily, you guys caught it in time. There's no instance. Wow,
no instance that he can cast with it.
I mean, basically, 6 mana 5/6 is still pretty good.
Unfortunately, that mistake was pretty much game losing. As I'm able to now use the Dreadbore that was rotting in my hand to clear out and get in for lethal without hindrance from that Shambling Vent. So it was a pretty significant mistake.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's unclear even if Gil could do that, if he still probably would have lost.
Well, no, because if the Gearhulk was around, my Mishra's Factory can't get in.
Well, did you only have 2 cards in hand?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, well, that's reasonable.
Yeah, so he was definitely wary of potential instant speed interaction, a Fatal Push or a Lightning Bolt, which would potentially lose him the game. And he was as he was saying to me as we played, he was just trying to take a really safe line, giving up a turn of clock to clear out any potential answers I had.
Sure, yeah, that seems reasonable. Well, it ended up costing him that game, potentially. So now we're on to game 3. No real sideboard changes from either of you. Both of you are pretty comfortable with your plans.
Nothing that I have seen from Tom suggests that I want to bring in additional tools for the matchup. I still don't feel like replacing any of my cards with the Nihil Spellbomb that I have, even though it does have the Leering Souls and these Delve spells. I don't think that's enough of a threat to bring in some cantripping graveyard hate. Tom is already his deck is already pretty well tuned against the control matchup, because he's got a Notion Thief main deck. He has a Philosopher's main deck. These couple of choices that he's made really speak to him expecting a lot of blue control and wanting to be good in that matchup. Yeah, I definitely agree that he's made some really up-top choices for a control metagame. He's playing a reasonably low number of answers. He I think, would struggle a lot more against aggressive Zoo decks or the Black-Red Necropotent strategies than I would, but he has correctly identified that those are not what this tournament's about. As we can see in the top 8, there's numerous blue control decks that are strutting their stuff.
For sure. Yeah. We saw a last-minute sideboard change there for Tom. I'm not really sure what he took in and out, but maybe just thinking that a repeal might be what he's interested in, or even possibly like a Mindbreak Trap to fight on the stack.
Even something like Kambal or Arcane Laboratory, if he hasn't sideboarded them in previously, might be a tool that he's interested in.
Yeah, I've always looked at the Arcane Lab in the control matchups, and it's so risky because it's great with counterspells, because if your opponent tries to do something, you just counterspell it and then move on. So you just keep playing a counterspell every turn. But in the blue matchups, if you want to do something, you can't protect it.
Yeah, the exact same issue. So as in game 2, it's might as well trade one card for
Yep.
that Gerard's Verdict or that hymn.
See a Vault of the Archangel with Tom there as a pretty cool utility land to use with the Lingering Souls that he has.
Definitely. Tom is getting a huge amount of value out of his mana base, having 3 man lands as well as a number of utility lands that he can get access to.
Yeah, you've chosen to use the classic Creeping Tar Pit, as well as the Mistress Factory and the Riptide Lab. Sorry, the Riptide Lab. Why do you choose to use Mistress Factory over Mutavault, which is slightly less vulnerable, not being an artifact?
I feel like the defensive utility of the Mistress Factory far outweighs its vulnerability. Being able to turn itself into a 3/3 on defense is so potent.
Yeah.
Every time that a Curd Ape is swinging into a Mistress Factory, that Zoo player has a very, very bad time. And even though most of the tools that can kill an artifact that are played in Highlander will also have a lot of utility against a normal Mutavault. A Braid takes it out just as easily both ways.
For sure, yeah. And we see Tom deploying his Riptide Laboratory early on. And he really doesn't have a lot to bounce with it. It's just Snapcaster Mage, pretty much, right?
Yeah, Snapcaster
and
Clicker,
Clicker, yeah.
I have a couple more options with Kess and Augur of Bolus, in addition to the Snapcaster Mage and Vendilion Click.
Yeah, the old Augur of Bolas Riptide Lab. It's kind of an awkward engine.
It's not the most efficient way to draw an instant or sorcery sometimes, but
hey, it gets the job done, I guess.
Yeah, any tool that can be used with Riptide Lab forms a pretty awkward but passable Maze of If or Icy Manipulator if things get really, really bad. Blocking one creature, bouncing with the Riptide Lab, and repeating until one of us breaks that stalemate is certainly a tool that can be used.
Yeah. Now, Tom's chosen to lay out the Notion Thief at sorcery speed in his main phase using the mana from the mana drain.
It really seems that he just needed, he just felt compelled to use that advantage somehow.
Oh, and Keranos coming down here doing a great haymaker.
I was pretty confident that Tom had access to some sort of counter magic, and I felt that the Deathrite Shaman was threatening enough to warrant a response because it both blanks the Notion Thief and presents a reasonable clock to lead off with that in the hope that he would counter. So
yeah, it's a little bit awkward here because if you draw a land, Tom gets to draw a card. If you draw a spell, Notion Thief dies. So
yeah, it's a bit of an interesting dynamic we've established, but luckily I am a pretty powerful wizard and do find a spell to kill the Notion Thief.
Yeah, rip in peace, Notion Thief. And it's a draw spell too, so it allows you to set up Keranos next turn. I always have loved Keranos in Highlander decks. I've been playing Keranos since it was printed.
I completely agree. It's been very rare that I haven't had Keranos, at least in my 75. It's incredibly difficult to deal with once it's resolved, and the long-term advantage of having it in play is insurmountable.
Yeah,
a lot of the time.
I often end up with it in the sideboard, but I always wanted to put it in the main deck because it's one of those cards where it's just like, it provides you with so much long-term value, as you said.
And one thing that I was very aware of going into this event, I wasn't playing as many win conditions as most of my contemporaries in the blue-based control decks. I felt like even if I could gain control and gain an advantage, a lot of the time I would fall behind because of some amount of inability to close those games. And Keranos was a bit of a patch for that.
Philosopher able to efficiently trade 1-for-1 for a treasure cruise here is pretty good.
Definitely punishes me for using that ponder this turn, where in most cases, a 1-mana spell that goes to the graveyard is pretty much free when you're planning to delve it all away. Building up the store for that counter magic is a bit of a solid punish.
Yeah, look, it is what it is. And but Tom still is like, that Keranos is such a problem.
He has a reasonable number of ways to deal with it. He has I believe Anguish Unmaking in his deck, and Vindicate. No, not a Vindicate, Detention Sphere in his sideboard.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he would have brought that in. I expected the Georg to come down here end of turn. Georg does an effective job at racing here.
Definitely. It's one of the main advantages of Torrential Gearhulk is that it's just huge.
Yeah, it's just real big. And like the probably 2-3 turn clock here. With the addition of the Creeping Tar Pit, and also the option to use Vault of the Archangel to just turn that Gearhulk into a 5/6 lifelink is pretty absurd.
Definitely. Vault of the Archangel does effectively blank the Keranos' ability to win the game as long as the Torrential Gearhulk is able to stick around.
Yeah.
He just gains unbelievable amount of life
Yeah,
really, really quickly.
basically doing a Baneslayer Angel impression there. What are you hoping to draw here? Just something to do with the Gearhulk, really?
Definitely. I feel incredibly confident that the game will go in my favor if I just can sit around, answer his threats, and rely on Keranos to win the game.
Yeah, Keranos will get there eventually.
So my most important responsibility right now is keep myself alive so that Keranos can do its job.
Yeah. And Jace does a great job of that. There's basically no low impact, no high impact instance in Tom's graveyard, so you could definitely unsummon the Gearhulk and then maybe counter it on the way down. But Tom had the force for the Jace, but you've able to deploy a Toxic Deluge, which whilst costs you a bunch of life, it kills the Gearhulk. So
definitely, it means that any future Trend Nemesis will be a little bit more soft. But of course, drawing this Pyroblast gives me a lot of security.
That's a great answer. Yeah.
At this stage of the game, I just feel quite confident that I can get this over with.
Yeah, for sure. Tom really needs to draw a creature so he can start using that Vault and just outrace you. But it does need to be a creature that survives Keranos. So
definitely,
Snapcaster Mage isn't really going to get the job done. Neither is Spell Queller. Neither is Monastery Mentor, really. Oh, the Vindicate taking down the Tar Pit. It's pretty good.
It gives him a lot of extra turns to draw into something like a Tasiga or that Teferi he's brought in.
Yeah.
Or one of his Planeswalkers.
Yeah. Teferi is a threat you can play where it's protected by the Riptide Lab as well. But showing the Gearhulk here off the Keranos trigger is pretty damning for Tom.
At this stage, he would need an incredible series of draws to pull ahead into this game. Very similar to the first game of this set, where his backbreaking permanent in Elspeth's Sun's Champion has been able to stick around for a couple of turns and now threatens to win the game in short order. Now that in Game 3, my Keranos has done the same thing, really shows one of the dynamics in this blue mirror. The person with the last best threat is often going to win.
Yeah, snapping off the blast here on that Cryptic Command as a kind of pseudo time walk for Tom, bouncing the Keranos and drawing a card, presumably.
Yeah, and of course it means that any attempts to counter my Keranos on the way back down are cut off from him as well.
Yeah, for sure. We see the Colonnade being the play here from Tom. Kind of an awkward manland, because while it's huge, you can't really use the Vault and activate it in the same turn. It's just way too much mana. To be fair, I guess he is actually only 1 mana off of it.
Yeah,
but he knows about that Gearhulk, and the Gearhulk can Pyroblast it, unfortunately.
It's one of the reasons that this game has become a lot more based on these powerful haymakers. Increasingly, ways to deal with manlands that are main deckable have made their way. Fatal Push especially.
Yeah. I chose to use Field of Ruin in blue-black, and it was fantastic all day. It really impressed me. It was able to... it gave me some game against the lands deck by able to just leave it in play. And you're kind of encouraged to leave mana open anyway, so leaving it in play against the Dark Depths combo is really good. I took out several Creeping Tar Pits. It helped me feel like I had more game against the Academy decks and the artifact based decks with Mishra's Workshop and stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah, it impressed me.
I've been quite interested in trying out the Field of Ruin as a really low impact way of getting a huge amount of percentage versus land-based strategies.
Yeah.
Manlands are often a really deciding factor in these blue mirrors, Creeping Tar Pit especially, as it is an unblockable source of damage, and more ways to deal with those cards that don't cost you a bad spell in the sideboard games. Really, really good.
Yeah, for sure. All right, thank you so much for joining us again. We hope you'll come back to CBR MTG to see the rest of the Australian National Highlander Championships. I'm just going to give a quick shout out to the 7.7 minute series over at Adelaide Eternal. If you're interested about the format, that's a great starting point to get some primers to some decks. And as always, you can check out ozaternal.com for their forums, which have a bunch of deck lists, including all of the top 8 deck lists from this event, as well as the deck lists in these videos. Thank you again.